Okay, let's see how this goes. Might have to re-record this if the audio is bad, but whatever. SeeAudio Bravery, non-2024 edition. Oh, it's 2025. Let me explain. Now, I did purchase this IAM recently. It is still available. It is apparently the 2022 Lifestyle VGP Summer something. I don't know. That sticker was on it when I got this box. The box is very nice. We have your SeeAudio anime girl, as expected. Bravery, 4BA, IM, Knowles, Sonyin, Asla. It did come with these Elastic ear tips still, as it would have at launch, and the Hakuge cable, which is quite nice. I'll show that in a second. It's not actually on my set at the moment because, focus please, I actually enjoyed, at first I hated the cable, absolute hatred, but I came to really enjoy it, so much so that I wanted to put it on my Final Audio A6000, which I use probably a little more than these, although these have been mostly my main set for some time. That was my dog shifting in the background. Anyways, back to packaging for a brief moment. Yeah, anime girl, black box. In it you get all the stuff. Doesn't really matter too much. What does matter is, put this aside, just ignore that. You get a carrying case. It's got the bunny girl ears. Focus please. Come on, Fuji. There we go. Look at that. SeeAudio registered. Don't know if that's actually a registered logo, but whatever. Hard case made of some sort of probably aluminum or what have you. It's lined on the inside with a soft fabric. Not sure if there's it might be a really thin foam. Pretty bare bones, but I actually found this, focus please, I actually found this form factor and case to be quite useful. I did some traveling recently, went out to Phoenix, Arizona from Los Angeles, where I'm normally at, where I'm at now. Just bumped the mic. Focus, there we go. And these were the only set I took with me. And as such, a hard case in driving and then flying, having luggage comes in handy to protect, a $300-ish investment. Even so, yes, they are $300-ish. Even in today's market, they didn't go down that much, or at all maybe, since I think 2021 or 2 is when this first debuted. Right now I've got it on a triple win cable. I believe this is the Zoni Gold 3.5. I've got the Dunu Candy ear tips on these at the moment. I found these to be sort of the best compromise between fit in my ears and frequency response. We'll get to that in a second. I did graph these. I now have a Squig Link site, and I've done extensive measurements on everything I own, and will continue to do so as things come and go, which probably won't be that often, as I'm not anybody special, so I buy all of these, and I don't just buy things without reason. So let's get to my reasons. As far as build quality, they feel premium. The cable they came with feels premium, although it was annoying at first. It's this fabric wrapped cable with, let's see, at first I hated it because this cable does get a little bit tangly if you're not gentle with it, but it untangles fairly quick and does not have preformed ear hooks, which was strange at first, but now I really enjoy. I actually just ordered more of these cables because although the length is not ideal, they get a little bit tangly. They're relatively inexpensive for what the hand feel and performance is like in terms of everyday usage, and I enjoy them. So I put them on my main set at the moment, the A6000, which I've previously done a video on, which I might address because I have measurements now of my own that I've done for these guys. So if anybody watches this and is interested, let me know. In any case, cable, good, build construction, they look good, they feel premium, they don't feel cheap. The gloss plastic can be the resin rather, can be a little cheaply done at times on other sets, but I think these look quite good still, given their age in the market, basically ancient in IEM years. But they look good. Okay, let's get to the sound reasoning. They look good, they feel good, the cable's good. All of that feels adequate for $300. For the sound, I'm gonna go over to my measurements. So here we are. It does come with, here, actually before I do that, let's switch back over the camera. It comes with the Zelastec tips by Asla, Sedna, Earfit, Zelastec. They're super tacky, relatively rigid, and they seal like no other. I happen to not like them so much just because they tend to collect dirt and skin flakes and whatever else is in your ear immediately. And also mine just sort of became malformed briefly after one listening session. I think my ear shape is just, at least for my left ear, maybe be atypical, but it did come with these. These are pretty premium. I think still a set of small, medium, large runs about $30. So accessories wise, yeah, I did not feel cheated, we'll say, for the $30 spent. Now, we'll get back to the chart. Okay, the rating on my Squiglink site does give away my opinion a little bit. 4 out of 5 stars. We'll get to it. All right, I don't have a target up. This isn't a JM1 tuned IEM. It's not really straight up Harman. It's tuned sort of in the vein of the Dunu SA6 Mark II, QDC style of tuning, which sort of is its own thing. And at this price point, it's still one of the IEMs on the market that is tuned in this way and is positively reviewed and is still accessible monetarily. It's about half the price of the Dunu SA6 Mark II, the Dunu SA6 EST, which I think is still in that vein of tuning philosophy, although I can't remember exactly at the moment. But anyways, that was the impetus for me seeking these out and picking them up much after their debut. In fact, there is a 2024 edition that I think is tuned differently as well. Looks completely different and not really a look that I sought after as much as these anyway. So I wanted to try something anti-meta, if you will, than I didn't want to pay $600 or whatever for. So anyways, let's get to how it sounds. It is, to me, to my ear, relatively balanced sounding. This may look a little scary with how much upper treble there is. The Dunu candy tips are in red here, and you can see it sort of balances out between the upper mids and the mid treble. Where is that? Mid treble here. So the 8K peak is just an artifact of the measurement rig that I use, that most people use, the 711 coupler from AliExpress or what have you. That's supposed to be there, but with the Zelastec tips, you get a little bit less of the sort of upper mid presence region, and we still have a lot of upper treble here. So I found the Zelastecs to seal well, get a pretty good bass response, but lean a little bit sharp. Female vocals especially had a little bit of a hiss to them, and they still do have a little bit of a hiss with the candy tips. However, I find bringing the volume back just a little bit, and these sort of shine to me with live music especially. Female vocals do take the hit in terms of coming off a little bit hissy at times. However, it's not all the time. It is definitely dependent on how the music you're listening to is mixed. For example, K-pop, J-pop, that kind of thing. Most of the time was all right for me, but there's certain tracks from NMIX, for example, sort of a newer group, that I think are almost mixed to be sharp and glassy in a way. And that comes through. Like, these feel relatively honest as a sound, even though this is definitely a colored sound. The bass here is definitely, it feels linear when you're listening to it, and it sort of graphs kind of sub-bass focused. But because this is an all BA set, you're not going to get a lot of physicality. There is some bass physicality here. It's not going to feel like, air is moving, so to speak. For example, on Aria 2 from Moondrop, and even its little brother, the Moondrop Lan, at times you're going to feel a little bit more physicality from the bass and those getting reproduced by those dynamic drivers, whereas this all BA set feels a little more clinical and I want to say transparent in a way. It feels as though you're getting everything you need to get, and I don't know exactly if there's focus that jumps out to me when I listen to these. Vocals are nice. They're a little bit recessed. I think the lower mid range, is dipped a little more than on some of the newer tuning philosophy type of sets, like Pure, or what else is newer on the market. A lot of the JM1 stuff, KE4, there's a little bit more energy here in the lower mids, and the mid bass is sort of more linear at times. So this is a lot more filled out on a newer type of set. On this set, however, there's a little bit of tuck in the lower mids. The vocals, however, still sound relatively correct. I won't say natural per se, because of the occasional hissy and glassy nature to them for female vocals. Male vocals are fine. Maybe not. I wouldn't call this a vocal centric set at all. V-shaped, but not necessarily strongly so, at least to my ear. When they're in my head, these are sort of an immersive, energetic set. not necessarily neutral. I don't feel like they're particularly tuned in any sort of harsh V-shaped kind of way. In spite of this graph, you're looking relatively dipped in the mids, and then obviously elevation in the sub bass and a lot of upper treble here. U-shaped perhaps, but whatever shape aside, how does it sound in my head? It sounds nice. It sounds energetic. It sounds, a word I kept coming back to listening to these was immersive, especially on live music. For example, the K-pop, J-pop group XG put out a live album recently, and I found that to be an album I came back to a lot on this set specifically. There's also a live studio session by the band Ohm that they did for the BBC radio or something like that, and you get a sense that you're listening to everything happening in that room. Not necessarily like you're in the room and like you're right up next to the amps or anything crazy like that. I mean, this is an all-BA $300 set that I feel like I got my value for money here, but I'm not going to say that it's a life-changing set by any means. It feels correct though. It feels like I'm getting everything I need to get out of my music, and in a way that's relatively exciting. I listened to these quite a bit. They were my main IEM for about a week or two while when I just got them in and I was trying to form an opinion. I traveled with them because I was enjoying them. Although I think when I traveled, I had Dunu S&S tips on. So let's see if I bring up the frequency response with those. Very similar to the Candy, although a little bit less of that balancing act between the upper mids and then the treble here. A little bit more linear in the treble range. I think this is how the graph looks on other people's rigs a lot, the way the S&S graphs, and I found it to be just about as pleasant. I did lower my volume a little bit to avoid some hissiness, but I still found everything to be adequately loud, adequately immersive, even though I'm not blasting. For example, with my final A6000s, I can sort of crank those up and not really get any of the hissiness or unpleasantness for quite a bit. Excuse me, drinking water. Anyways, I think for the most part, whatever tips you've got, whatever you want to use, if you use the stocks, the Lastex, you're still going to get the sort of immersive type of sound. You're going to get bass that it's satisfying enough. It's not all that physical, but it feels accurate. There is some rumble to the sub bass. You can sort of feel, in a way, kick drums, strong bass, 808 type things are going to be reproduced accurately, I'll say, but you're not going to get the sort of impact from something like a dynamic driver, whether it's single or hybrid. Like even on my Hexa, which is not known to be all that bassy, has a little bit of that same kind of physicality that this approaches, but I think it's an all-B8 thing where it's not moving air in the same way as a dynamic driver is. So For the bass heads who want sort of slam or impact, whatever you want to call it, definitely not a set that I would recommend. But for somebody who wants an energetic, immersive sound reproduction, this is a pretty versatile set. I've listened to black metal with this, K-pop as I've discussed, American football, so sort of I guess it's people are calling it Midwest emo these days. They just call it emo. When I'm talking about emo, I'm not talking about Taking Back Sunday or whatever. But that's beside the point. It's handled everything I've thrown at it relatively well, and I did again. I found it to shine on live music that's been recorded well. Don't don't expect the same sort of recommendation if you're listening to fan recorded YouTube live sets on an iPhone microphone. That's probably going to sound like garbage no matter what you're listening it through. But yeah, that's basically summation of my thoughts on the Bravery's sound. I recommend the Do New Candy Tips personally, or what else is relatively available? SNS or Candy. If you can get a hold of those are pretty easy. They're on Amazon. You should be able to get a decent fit, and the sub bass is really a tell on whether or not you're getting the proper seal. I found smaller tips to work better in my ear with this particular shape and design. If I go over back to the camera briefly, hold these up, you'll see I have the small Do New Candy Tips on here. That's the orange. Small is orange. I believe medium is like a blue, and then large is sort of a sky blue type of thing. You might hate the cable forever. It might grow on you like it did for me. I actually looked into this cable maker, and they do make a lot of other premium products in the cable space. Not that I really care about buying cables to change the sound or anything, but I've come to really enjoy having a cable that does not have preformed ear hooks in this way. Like, come on. Like these do, and that's why I'm using them on my sort of main IM at the moment, and I bought more of these. So I like the cable. You might hate it though. Give it some time. And matter of fact, this is sort of a set that has to grow on you, I think. Out of the box, it might be a little hissy. You might hate the cable, but I did find it to really shine after a while. I found its niche in my library, at least. I was able to get comfortability down and learned to appreciate the cable. But it is not going to be for everybody. This is not going to be a tuning that maybe speaks to a lot of the buyers in the market looking for new meta, Cranier Daybreak type. What else? Everything's new meta at the moment. All of this stuff coming out is sort of meta tuned mid-range, and then you might get an elevation in the bass or some funniness with the treble, but this is not that. I think it still has a place in the market, though. I think different tuning philosophies are going to be more valued. I think Mr. Super Review discussed today that there might be some fatigue around new meta, and I think that that's true. I think variety is the spice of life, and if you have all of your audio products that sound the exact same, that might be something you're into, but I like a little bit of specificity, right? I know I can reach for these if I want a sort of different experience in terms of staging and immersion, right? If I want, maybe I'm feeling I have a headache or whatever, the bass on this is going to be a little bit softer around the edges. It's not going to be as invasive and engaging and physical as, say, I have Aria 2 over here, even its younger brother, the Lon, and even on my final A6000, right? These are fairly balanced as a set, but come on. Yeah, fairly balanced as a set, but again, V-shaped, and you know, maybe sometimes you don't want that V-shaped sort of sound with the bass kicking and the treble nuances jumping out at you. But that's about it as far as what I'll say. I called it a 4 out of 5 on my Squig site, and I think it's a set that still has a place. In the same way that the SA6 Mark II, I believe, is still a relatively successful set in today's market, but that's going to do it. Do I like it? Yes. Do I recommend it? I recommend to try it first. It's not going to be for everybody. Don't buy this if you want really physical bass or laid back vocals. You will get some hissiness depending on fit in your ear and the tracks you're listening to potentially. But for live instrumentation, percussion especially, cymbals, snare, it could be a little bit more engaging with, but I think that has a little bit to do with a slight tuck in the mid-range. But anyways, it's a specialist set. I would recommend trying it. I intend to keep this. It's one of my favorites at the moment, and I have no regrets for buying an quote-unquote ancient product in 2025. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you care, or if not, peace.